We always had these stories, and everyone said, well, Adrian's a storyteller, he's going to tell them. And I'm like, I'm not telling you lot stories. Get out of here. And you lot don't remember the stories in the morning anyway. You know what I mean? So I used to
Yeah.
say to people, if you're serious, write it down. If you're serious, write it down. And nobody ever did. So I know nobody's ever serious. One day, my brother, Michael Che, wrote it down. He literally wrote it down. He wrote a story, Halftime Hustlers, and it was good. And I said, this is good. This is good. And I said, let's write it together. And he's like, I can't write. This is for you. I said, no, bruv, you can write. Cut a long story short, because of Michael Che, we created Mellow Productions.
Hadi Naqvi from Usdaw.
Welcome back again, guys. It's me, Hadi Naqvi, your UK's TUC Organising Award-winning champion of 2024, or Organisers Award winner of 2024. Sorry, I love saying that so much because it's such a great feeling. And this is the Unmatched Podcast. Now, this is really a good one today because I always showcase and highlight people who aren't always in the limelight, but they are unmatched in their field. And my guest today is completely that person who is not in the limelight at all. Because he's in the creative industry. And when we watch TV shows or movies, short and simple, we enjoy the action that's on the screen. We enjoy the actors who are doing the work and bringing the stories to life. But behind the scenes, there's an entire machinery that brings everything together, all different organic components from editing, from directing, sound engineering, all kinds of things. And it comes from a production house, and always as someone who's at the head of the production house. Now, my guest has been doing his own production company, Mellow Productions, since 2009, which was founded by himself and his partner, Michael Che, to house their scripts. I mean, business partner by that. It took a life of its own and became a production hub for visuals as well as ideas and creative endeavors. My guest won an award in 2016 for the documentary film Trial by Fire, which was a Terry Dunnage story which he directed. He's a fellow South Londoner, grew up in Graveney, and, whereas I went to Bevan in South London, we were very similar schools in that sense. But his goal is to create stories that matter. He's a father to 4 boys, because raising boys is important, and recently got engaged to his longtime partner of 8 years, Natasha Sims. Today on Unmatched, I'm extremely honoured and proud to introduce Adrian Scott of Mellow Productions. How are you doing today? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, man. I'm alive. I woke up this morning. So anytime I wake up in the morning, it's a great day, man.
That's a positive attitude to have. And that's always reflected within your social media posts in terms of your very positive outlook on all kinds of things. It motivates a lot of people, and a lot of people gravitate towards you because of that. It's not just your typical motivational posts. You are like being real would be the best way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Hadi, when I do or say those things, I'm actually speaking to myself. I don't think of anyone who's watching, because if I did, I wouldn't say anything because my mum could be watching, and my mum does watch, by the way, or my siblings or people I know and love, and everyone's got opinions or tells me you should, so when I say what I say and when I do what I do on social media, ultimately the only person I'm in selfish mode, Hadi. I'm thinking of myself, because if I can inspire myself, then I can inspire others. But if you set out to inspire others, you might end up inspiring everyone but yourself. So for me, it starts with self. And if you do good, then people will feel good. And it's the same. If I came on and was miserable every day, people would feel that misery. But ultimately, it'd only be affecting me. People would switch off. So like I say, anytime I speak or I do something, it's for me. And if someone else is inspired by that, then great. That's good, because we should be inspiring each other.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing it, because the way you do it is a very real way of doing things. It's not just plucking out quotes and putting it out there, which a lot of the affiliate marketers have done in the past. or some of the motivational coaches that are out there. This is very heartfelt would be the best way of putting it. And people gravitate towards that. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people out there, if you go negative, you become an energy vampire, it repulses people and repels people. People can't deal with negativity. And I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards you and hold you in such high regard. Not only just, friends and family, but also within the industry and outside, which is really, really nice. And so, I mean, you went to Graveney, which is a secondary school in South London. To some people, Graveney was the rival to Ernest Bevin, and other people thought it was Chestnut Grove. But for me,
It's definitely Bevin.
for me, it was all love. It was all love, especially with the girls.
Well, you never had any girls in Bevin.
No,
So.
Bevin was an all-boys school. Ernest Bevin was an all-boys school. Graveney and Chestnut Grove were mixed schools. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of evilness coming out there. But yeah, your journey is actually quite interesting because you've done it from a very driven, individualistic background. What made you actually come into the creative industry? Because that is one of the toughest industries, not only to get into, but to be as successful as you have been.
It's just a really powerful question, and when I'll deal with the top of your answer in a sec, but just for the tail end, it's funny when people say successful, because I don't know if I have been successful, Hadi, and I don't even know what success looks like. So maybe I have been, but because I don't recognize it, and I better start recognizing it, because if I don't, then I'll miss that success, and I'll wake up when I'm not successful and say, well, what happened? Well, you were successful 10 years ago. You missed it. You should have been awake. And I suppose in that one has to live in the present and always be present. And be present of the journey, because maybe I am successful and I don't know it. And once you tune in, you understand and recognize what success means in it. Success doesn't mean money or fast cars or whatever it is. I think it's a personal thing. So I respect that. But not to digress, I should say, although I'm digesting this as well. In terms of the beginning of what you asked, what got me into this, the real answer, the honest answer is that I was born a creative, and I think a lot of us are, but one can only speak for oneself. And for me, I was born a creative. And how I know I was born a creative, because all I did was create. As far as my earliest memories of being in the physical, it was creating, and as you know, Hadi, first and foremost, I'm a writer. I'm a script writer before anything else. And I was always a writer. And it's funny when you go back and lock into a memory that you've forgotten. And I think we forget most of the memories. There's a lot of memories, but I've been on planet Earth 47 years. I don't have 47 years on memories. And there's stuff that I've forgotten, and it's locked in my inner psyche somewhere. But as I have downloads and remember stuff, I remember I was blessed with being able to read from a very early age. And when that switch went on and I could suddenly read words and understand these squiggly lines, oh, that's a Z, that's a A, that's a capital B. Once I understood it, it really switched on. And all of a sudden, I was opened up to this brave new world of books. That could be a dangerous thing as well. When they said that on the slave field, the cotton fields, don't let the slaves read. It's dangerous. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Once I could read, there was no stopping me. I read everything, Hadi. I read Life magazines. I don't know if you remember Life magazines. Back in the 80s, I read Life magazines. I'd read all my mum's magazines. I read comic books. Comic books is what got me into writing. Marvel comics. DC comics came later, but Marvel comics. And I'd done these strange things as a child. And when I say strange, let me quantify what that means. So my mum would go to work and leave us, because it was the 80s and I had to look after my siblings, and she was a single mum, single parent. So I'd be at home trying to keep myself busy, as you do. Now, in those days, there was no mobiles, no computer games. There was nothing except TV, a few channels, your V8, and whatever your imagination could do. And so what I did, I used to take my mum's cookbooks, really strange thing, but I only remembered this about a year ago. I did this. I used to take my mum's cookbooks and I would copy out the recipes verbatim of those cookbooks, but only the recipes that I thought that I craved. So I remember there was like a kiwi flan or strawberry and kiwi flan, these recipe books, and 4 cups of water, milk, ounce of this, and I'd write it out and I'd do it over and over again. But what that did, it got me writing a lot. and my writing became neater and neater. Plus it also, because I read the Life magazines and I read the comic books, and I didn't just read Marvel, but I was ashamed of this when I was little. I used to read girl comics, yeah? But they were my mum's comics. And let me tell you about these girl comics. Mandy, Judy, Bunty. They were girl comics. They had the most fascinating stories you could ever read. I don't think nowadays they'd be called girl comics. Like, I used to make sure no one saw me reading these because, you know, I'm a little boy, you know, boys don't do girl stuff. But I read these so-called girl comics, man, and they were amazing. And in between reading that and reading the biography of, or Life magazine article about the assassination of Martin Luther King, the Reverend Martin Luther King, which made me cry as a kid, but I'd cry in private. So, you know, even at 7, 8 years old, I didn't want anyone to think that I cried because 8-year-olds don't cry.
Yeah.
I were a father did. I didn't know. I weren't aware of my own age. I would have cried my eyes out. But I remember reading the story of Martin Luther King and locking myself in the toilet as I always did and cried because I didn't understand why anyone would kill him. And I didn't get it. Like, what do you mean they killed him because he's black? That doesn't make sense. But I'm trying to make sense of this as a 7, 8-year-old. And I just couldn't make sense of it. So it was sad for me. But what that was doing was just reading those things, reading those stories and reading books I shouldn't be reading at that age. It just opened my mind up. Plus I was a creative anyway. I was always daydreaming. My mum's favorite thing to say to me was, Adrian, stop daydreaming. Now I always say, Mum, you should have said, Adrian, keep daydreaming, son. Keep daydreaming. Daydreaming is beautiful. It's beautiful to dream. And so I was always a creative. Plus, I love movies, and I had a love of movies. And I told my mum this at her 70th, surprise 70th, that me and my siblings done for her a few weeks ago. I said that my love of movies came from my mother because my mum used to, Adrian, quick, Godfather's on. Or Adrian, quick, Imitation of Life is on. Or Adrian, quick, Gone with the Wind is on. And I'd sit down with my mum and watch these movies. And I was fascinated by them. And the movie that really, I mean, other than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Sergio Leone, but the ones that really opened me up was Star Wars. And when I saw that film, I started drawing behind the scenes. So everything I drew was the puppeteers puppeteering Slice Noodles or Jabba the Hutt, all the puppets and whatnot, because I was like, there's people doing this. And what I'd also do, Hadi, is I'd look at the credits going up the screen.
Yeah.
And they were, I didn't know, in the 80s, there was no way to know what the best boy was, what a gaffer was. I didn't know. I knew director, I knew a couple things, but I didn't know those ones. And I used to look at those over and over again to the point where my mum would record videos for me. She'd record TV shows for me, or films for me, I should say. You know, those VHS tapes, how much films could you fit on the VHS? Then they had what did they have?
Long play,
recording
short play, standard play.
Long play, yeah, mate. Yeah, so they had long play, so you could fit like 3, 4 films on and whatnot. And what my mum would always do is cut the film off as soon as the last frame of that film ended. And I used to go mad. And I said, Mum, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She goes, what do you mean? I said, the credits. You've got to record the credits. And she'd be like, Adrian, why do you want to see a bunch of writing going up the screen? And I said, Mum, I need to know who these people are. I wanted to say, Mum, one day my name will be on those credits. And I learned how to record them for myself, so I never missed a credit again. Unless it was a terrible film and I needed to fit 3 films on one tape, then I'd cut the credits. I'd even cut some scenes just to fit them on, man. We were creative. But yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying how I got into the creative industries. What I'd also do, Hadi, is I wrote stories a lot. And what I'd do, I'd write stories with my friends in it. And my friends were the characters in movies or we became Marvel superheroes. And so one of the films I always remember mixing was Platoon, the film Platoon. I mixed it with The Punisher and Spider-Man. And so I'd put comic book characters into Platoon, and Punisher became Sergeant Elias, because they both got shot. Except Punisher survived. Elias done that. I love that. And also what got me as well, Hadi, was soundtracks. I'd record soundtracks. Stand By Me, Platoon, The Mosquito Coast, Witness, any soundtrack, because I was very musically in tune or orientated. So any soundtrack, movie soundtrack, I'd play the movie, put the record player right up next to it and press. It was terrible recordings, terrible. But I'd press record and then try and make my own compilation of soundtracks. So I forgot this because when I went to Graveney, I wanted to be an airline pilot.
It's still noble, it's still a noble profession, although difficult to get into. Again,
Didn't have the physics.
that's that, and mathematics and all the other bits and pieces that go.
Forget, I'm not that way inclined. Science, maths. I'm English. English is my gift.
Yeah, and then that showed as well, especially But just a side note for anyone that is not fully aware, the original Frank Castle character in terms of the Punisher was a Vietnam War veteran. So
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
that's
He was actually, and I'd forgot he was.
Yeah.
So putting him in the jungles of Cambodia, and that wasn't so far.
Oh, he actually did do that in the
You know,
comics. There'll
actually
be a
did do
story
that,
in the
so-
comics that he's done it. Whether it's in the War
Absolutely.
Journal or whichever comic you followed in the original Punisher run, because that's Frank Castle's background. Of course, as time moves
Absolutely.
on, things get updated because Frank
You
Castle.
update him, yeah.
Yeah, so it's now, in the early 2000s, it was the Gulf War, now it's Afghanistan. Because, again,
Afghanistan, yeah.
otherwise the Punisher is now 80 years of age, potentially. And they could do a life story about that. They could work it in with Dirty Harry. That could be something you could look at.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But, yeah, I mean, look, you've clearly had that interest for the behind-the-scenes sort of stuff, and to see how the magic was actually made. Whereas most people, like myself, we would stop at the action scenes. We would look at the what is on screen, and that's how far we will go. We won't look at the cinematography. We won't look at the lighting or this. We won't look at the minute details that brings it all to life. But you had that keen interest because you started from the writing sort of background and building the pictures up together. That's a process in itself. So your journey in terms of writing to get to that sort of element of production, what was your sort of journey there?
Hey content creators, this is my chance to do a quick review of a product I bought on a TikTok shop and I think you guys are going to love it. It's a green screen disc that fits on the back of a chair. It can fit to almost any surface, and if you've got a area like a flat or a single bedroom or a bedsit where you're living in where you've got no space, this is ideal for those who are using it for things like Twitch, streaming, or just general YouTube videos. Like so. So get yours in the TikTok shop today. I'll leave the link in here.
Well, I didn't know how to write, and I didn't know you could write, and I didn't know writing was a thing. Even though I wrote, I didn't know it was anything other than you write stories for fun. No one ever said to me in school when I was writing stories that writing stories could lead to somewhere. Obviously, I was aware of novelists, my favourite being Roald Dahl, Judy Blume when I was little, David Gemmell later on. But growing up, I didn't know there was a pathway between what I did as a kid, as a hobby, and what I could do for a living, which is still part hobby. So there was no path. So I didn't have that thought that I could do anything with this, which is why I wanted to be. No, that's not why I wanted to be an airline pilot. I like the idea of flying, but my gift was never anything that's technical. I'm not good at putting up shelves. I'm not, and a lot of men are, but I'm not.
Yeah. I get that. I get that completely. I'm one of those guys too.
I can't do straight lines. I'm not good at doing straight lines. I can't do a line from point A to point B and it's perfect. And I'm not good at physics or those things. I'm completely redundant at those things. So, but my God-given gift is just knowing how to write. And what I did is when I left Graveney and it was time to study. It's like, what do you study in college? What do you do? I weren't going to be an airline pilot anymore. That dream was dead. And I didn't really love that idea anyway, but I did want to do something, of course. So when I went to Hammersmith and West London College, I decided to do media studies. It was just the obvious thing to do with photography because I always loved photography and I've been taking photos since I was like 6 years old. And literally, I've got pictures of me and my friends in Young Guns pose, real thing, regulators in Young Guns pose, and we were like 10 years old. And I took those pictures. We took pictures. I took pictures all the time. So I went and studied English A-levels because, I love English and language and diction and all of those things and poetry. And I've done that with media studies and photography. So when I'd done media studies, it gave me an opportunity to make films, terrible films, but that didn't matter. I was in that zone of making films, just creating and just doing stuff. And then I loved it. And then what happened to me is I got into a BBC mentor scheme, which was in conjunction with Hammersmith College. So by going to Hammersmith College, I was on this BBC mentor scheme for 9 months, and it gave me paid work, it made me meet people, networking events, everything. It was one of the best things that ever happened. But because I didn't know what I wanted to do, they paired me with a mentor that was in post-production. Now, I wasn't interested in post-production, but because I didn't know what I was interested in, they paired me with a guy called Danny. I'll never forget Danny. I wonder what happened to him.
I'm pretty
But
sure you can find him on
even though,
LinkedIn.
yeah, I don't remember his surname. It's so weird. But what was good, even though he was in post-production, I wasn't interested in post-production. And I don't think he was the best mentor, but how do you measure that? Because what he did do, he lent me his video camera. And I used his video camera for the 6 weeks holiday. And every holiday, I had this video camera that he lent me for like maybe a year. And I just shot everything. I filmed my friends. In 96, I've got so much footage. We're 19 years old. I've got so much footage of my friends at college and uni. And I was just documenting stuff, just documenting. And then when I finished college and went on to university, that's when I said, I want to write a script. I had no real story. The character, the main protagonist, I didn't know he was called a protagonist back then. His name was Angles, I'll never forget. And I wrote with a pencil, wrote this script out with pencil, no computers, wrote in a pencil. It's a terrible script. There's no beginning, middle and end. But if you look at this script now, and I'm sure it exists somewhere, I've got it somewhere, but you can see the origins of myself and what I would go on to do. Just doing that, and I never completed the script either. Never completed it. I'd done like 30 pages and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just writing. But it's the best way to do it, Hadi. You just dive in. And if you can tread water, you might not drown. You don't have to be a great swimmer. But I did dive in the deep end and I just did it. And at one point, I was getting a lot of runner jobs at the BBC and I got paid. They gave me a car. I was happy. I just graduated. I'm at the BBC. I worked on Crime Watch UK. I worked on East End, different shows, and I was a runner. But at that age, I was 22 years old. I was so old. I was 22. I was ancient. And I was getting so fed up of being a runner at 22. I'm like, where's the pathway? Where am I going? It was a different time. There wasn't the opportunities that the people have now. So I know where I was going. I didn't want to keep being a runner, and I was 22 and I'm old. And so I said, I'm not going to take any more runner jobs anymore. I'm done. And I said, all I'm going to do is write. And it's scary because you're worthy by the people you know. And once I left the BBC, I knew nobody except two of my best friends, Melvin Palaya and Tom Mortimer. And they both went Luton University. And I said to them, because we was writing an animation series at the time called The Flats, and I said to them, you two are the only two people I know in the industry now. And they weren't even in the industry, really. They were in uni en route, and they both gone on to great things, big things. But at that time, I was like, I'm by myself. I'm going to start again. And Hadi, I just went to writing. I just started writing and completed my first feature script, which is no one's ever going to read, called London's Town, while I was at my day job. In between calls on my day job, I'd be writing this film, and I completed it. And it's the first script I ever completed.
Do you remember what your day job was?
Yeah, of course.
What was it?
It was at a place. I won't say the name of the place because
don't say the name.
I won't say the name but only because we fell out. Me and that place fell out of love with each other, and they fell out in love with me because but I'm not just saying this. I was the best at the time. I was the best salesman in their history. Now they weren't an old company. They weren't an old company
sales.
like they were 100 years old.
I knew somehow sales was going to be involved somewhere.
How did you know?
Because sales is a great industry for people to get into that pushes them into a completely different direction. Start to figure out, like what you said, you dive in. You dive into a lot of things. You tread water lightly, but you're now faced with yourself. You tap into those parts of yourself that you didn't know actually existed. You come out of your comfort zone, for one, especially if you're cold calling. You are having to learn to be a diplomat and a negotiator by the words that you're selecting and choosing. And then that can translate to other skills, writing, negotiating contracts, things like that, and analyzing things, because you then have to think quite fast on your feet as well. And at the same time, it also not only pays the bills, but gives us that drive and motivation to actually pursue what you really want to do. Because sales also creates dreams, goals, and aspirations, not just targets. This is a target and this is how you're going to get there, but why you want to get there. And for you, again, it was maybe the day job, but it was there as the vehicle to get you to where your dream really was, and that dream was to get the writing done, put it into a intellectual property that can be converted either to TV or film, but something that was yours. So
That's so true. That's so true, because although it wasn't cold calling, because I personally never wanted to do cold calling, I didn't have to. It was incoming calls. But what I was good at, because they always said to me at this job, "Why are you so good?" Because I was so good that they ended up, not everyone, but there was an element that wanted to get rid of me. Namely my line. What do they call them? I almost said line producer because I'm in film. My line manager. Yeah, my line manager wanted to get rid of me, Hadi, and in the end, I left on my own accord. But there was this silly structure in this place where that I could earn more than my boss. Now, whoever thought of that is not thinking straight, because that causes a lot of resentment. And here I was, this 28-year-old young black man, and I was smashing the cell so much that they made recordings of my calls to train people and whatnot, but they'd never make me a team leader because I was a rebel without a cause, or rebel with a cause, I should say. And so they couldn't tame me. But because they couldn't tame me, I was so good, because why? With sales, it's people.
Yeah.
People by people, Hadi, as you know, my brother.
Absolutely.
People by people. Now, I know how to talk to people, and it doesn't matter where. Not that they knew what color I was, because my name's Adrian, and, I'm not using Ebonics at work. So,
I know. I've been there
spoken.
too. I know. You have
I'm
to.
quite well spoken.
Yes.
Yeah. So all over England, they loved me, and I made so much money at this place. It was fantastic. I was on a great wage. Look, the wage wasn't great, to be fair. My basic weren't great,
No,
but
it was the commissions.
it was the
too much, yeah.
commission. I smashed it out the park. I was making a lot of money. Things were really good, but I was making too much money for some people's comfortability. And out of that, a lot of really horrible things happened. I will never say what happened, but it became very racist.
Anyone who's done that sort of environment,
toxic.
anyone who's been in that sales
awful.
environment will know
It
that
was
the
awful.
top guys will have their haters. And
It was awful.
Yeah,
and the haters were coming from my own bosses, not the top bosses. They loved me, and
yeah,
that's
of course
why they tried to get me fired. But the top bosses were like, "What's he done? He's making us so much money." It's the middle bosses. They were like, they tried to get me out of then. It was like a movie. It was like a movie. And I will say, if it wasn't for my friend, I haven't seen him in mad years. Asian brother from Chicago. He was from Chicago. If it wasn't for my friend Atif, they would have got me. This guy was a genius. And you know what? What I saw at that place, all the geniuses were in customer services. And customer services were at the bottom of the pyramid. And we held the company up. But we were the lowest of the low, because we was only customer services. They wouldn't let us rise. They wouldn't let me do copywriting, even though they used to take me off my calls where I earned all the money to help them with their copywriting. But then when I asked them if I can get into copywriting, they said, no, you got to do this, you got to do. They wouldn't help me elevate to copywriting. So they kept me in my box. I stayed in my box. This guy, Atif, I'll say his name, Atif, from Chicago. He was a genius. He could be running a company. I'm sure he is now. He was a genius, and they wouldn't let him come out of his box. But that guy gave me a gift that I'll never forget. And he's the reason why they couldn't sack me. And I won't say what he done, but he helped me, man, and he navigated me. And if it wasn't for this little genius, they would have sacked me for no reason. But that's another story. But that was a place where I knew my strength and my skills, because for me to be earning so much money and to be the top salesman, that was because I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to listen to people, and I knew how to connect with people. I knew how to make people feel good about themselves. And when people feel good about themselves, they buy.
Absolutely.
And I wrote my first script there. And it's funny because there's a guy, his name was Craig. I'll never forget him, because he was a devil worshipper, and I'm not really into devil worshippers. He worshipped Satan. It was very strange, because like, worship what? I'm godly, but hey, do you? But What I love about Craig, you mustn't judge people, even though I'm not into that. But what I loved about him, he came to me one day because he used to run the admin computers, and he said to me, he said, you know, I could have gone to management many times about you, and I never did. This would have got me sacked. Maybe. There was a website called Stormfront at the time. Don't know if it still exists, but it's one of the most racist websites on planet Earth. Like, it's just vile, racist. They don't like anyone of color on this website. Hopefully it don't exist. And he said, he said to me, I saw that you'd been visiting this website quite frequently while you was at calls. I used to get all your logs, yeah, of the websites you visited. And you said, but you know what? I never said nothing. I said, thank you for that, Craig. You get me? He never ever grasped me up. But the reason I did visit this website is because the film that I was writing, the script that I've completed, was called London's Town, and it was about a race war that ignited London and how we came together all cultures came together to deal with it. And so I was using Stormfront as my research for the characters, the racist characters, because I didn't know characters like that. My white friends aren't like that.
South London's different,
As
Rex. Completely
South
different.
London's different, man. We're all one round here, mostly. And so I went on this website to get into the minds of these horrible, vile characters I was creating. So I used that as research and I put it in my movie. The strangest thing is that one of my best characters, favorite characters, is called Tugby. One of the most racist, vilest characters, evil characters I've ever created. But I loved him, not because of what he did, but just because I created him. And even though there was nothing nice about this character, but he was full on. He was 100 miles an hour, and I respected that, if nothing else, this character I created. But I'd never be friends with a character. He would never be friends with me. But as a writer, you have to fall in love with all your characters, even the ones you hate, Hadi, especially the ones you hate, because if not, you won't be able to give them a purpose, even if you don't agree with their purpose.
The funny thing is, it sounds very prophetic because what happened last year, South London, East London, Southport riots, then those guys tried to come down to the London patch, and they were met with all people uniting against the far right, or hard right as they like to call them, or the rioters or protesters. But the guys that would black skin, brown skin, they're all this kind of way. But when it's, and it's been pointed out quite a few times on social media, someone from an English background or white English background doing the same kind of crimes, the report has been very much minimized and no one has said anything about it. And you don't see the riots taking place the same way that we've seen recently. So, you could have actually been a time traveler in that sense, writing about something that was actually going to be happening.
Hadi, the strange thing is that London's Town, this script, it was ahead of its time because there were politicians that were speaking so elegantly about race. They weren't all the same. I created a character that was just really off-key racist, the followers, but the leaders wore suits and they spoke well and they had a point to a degree. Well, not much of a point, but this was written in 2006, 2007, maybe 2007 or 2008. So it really was ahead of its time. And a lot of the things that I've done has been ahead of its time.
And it shows. And you've kept that sort of vibe going and the same grit and determination. So when you left, was that in 2009 as well when you decided to set up the production company?
I left in 2007. I left in 2007.
Yeah. And at that point, you was doing what? Was you feeling out the process, getting your contacts and trying to network and get yourself in? What was he doing at the time? Because he had to make money somehow.
Yeah, well, what I'd done throughout from 2000 and 2001 onwards, I left the BBC in 2003. I said I'm not doing any more runner jobs. And at that point, I just done day jobs, obviously, just worked like everyone else. But my creative flame was always burning. So in that time, I was just really, most of the time, I was in a dark room by myself, just writing, man, just writing. And I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was Michael Che, my brother from Battersea, who went to college with me, but we're from ends anyway. We grew up from 14 years old. We was part of the same crew, Plough Road, Battersea. And what Michael Che done was, we'd all kind of as teenagers, we'd get high, and after we got high, we always had these stories, and everyone said, "Well, Adrian's a storyteller; he's going to tell them." I'm not telling you lot stories. Get out of here. You lot don't remember the stories in the morning anyway. You know what I mean? So I used to
Yeah.
say to people, if you're serious, write it down. If you're serious, write it down. And nobody ever did. So I know nobody's ever serious. One day, my brother, Michael Che, wrote it down. He literally wrote it down. He wrote a story, Halftime Hustlers, and it was good. And I said, this is good. This is good. And I said, let's write it together. And he's like, I can't write. This is for you. I said, no, bruv, you can write. Cut a long story short, because of Michael Che, we created Mellow 9 Productions. Now, the only reason Mellow 9 Productions was created by Michael Che, he had this thing, he wanted to incorporate companies. Well, he knew how to incorporate companies. He was good at it. I don't know how many he'd done, but he's like, I didn't know anything about incorporating companies. He's like, I know how to incorporate companies. We'll come up with a production company. We didn't know the name. It was going to be an EFA, but someone took the name. But we wanted the 9 in there because of 9 months is 9 months to give birth. And so Michael incorporated this company, and it was only to house our scripts. That's the only reason we did it. Before we did that, though, because we wrote Halftime Hustle together, and this is why not everyone's meant to go to the end with you, but there's some people that come into your journey to get you from A to B to C to D. Everyone's got a purpose, and Michael was that person, because without Michael, there'd be no Mellow 9 Productions. And without Michael, a lot of things, I'm not saying I wouldn't have got here, because I probably would have in another way, but the reason I'm here where I am is because of Michael Che, and he's no longer in the industry, but he was so integral, because when we wrote Halftime Hustle, he went to an event called Black to the Future, and Michael approached a producer called Nadine Marsh-Edwards, who was eating her lunch, minding her own business. And Michael told her about Halftime Hustle and himself. And she goes, okay, well, let me have a read. She read it. She put us with a production company afterwards. She liked it. And out of that, she said, have you got some ideas for me? And we wrote 10 ideas. One of them was called Dog Ends, Hadi. I don't know if you might remember this, because you was around. Yeah, it's Dog Ends. And Dog Ends was directed by Trixwell, who created Desmond's. So, and it had Arnold Ocheng and a lot of other actors, young actors at the time, really young actors, really good actors. Some have gone on to some really big things. And so we created we created Dog Ends. And so we was suddenly writing a show. It was a pilot, and it never got picked up, but it was great because we were suddenly in this industry. And out of that, we're meeting people and going to events and getting known and getting talked about and having magazine write-ups about us and all of this thing that just came from Michael hustling Halftime Hustle to Nadine Marsh-Edwards at an event. And then Michael, because he knew everybody's faces, I never knew anyone's faces, I still don't. He's like, that's that guy, Muslim Bilal. I'm like, who's Muslim Bilal? He does the streets incarcerate. Let's talk to him. We spoke to Muslim Bilal, Ashley Chin. Out of that, we started working with Ashley Chin on his story, Streets to Islam. And then from there, that project never lifted off, but it didn't matter because I've just come off a movie with Ashley Chin that's going to be out this year called Upnas. I still work with Ashley Chin.
Upnas, yes. I've seen the adverts for that.
Yeah, we might talk about that. So I still work with Ashley Chin to this day. I wouldn't even know who Ashley Chin was if it wasn't for Michael Che. You understand? So Michael Che opened up all these doors for me. And then after a while, he said, I can't do this no more. There's no money. None of us are making money. His sensible wife said, you know what? Go and do a real job. And he did. He's no longer part of Mellow 9 Productions. But if it wasn't for him, there'd be no Mellow 9 Productions. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have met Ashley Chin. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have there'll be no Dog Ends. You know, I wouldn't have gone on these journeys. He opened these doors and then he left, and he left graciously. He left graciously with zero ill feeling, and fair play to him. And him and his family are amazing. That's my people to this day. That's what I was doing in between. I was doing day jobs, you know, I was working at the council, but also what I was doing at that time, Hadi, I met a producer, a friend of mine, and she was an actress, so she auditioned for something that I was part of, and out of that became a beautiful relationship where she got me teaching script writing and earning a lot of money. So I was now earning money, and I was in the field, and me and her was working on a lot of projects as well, like just spec stuff. And also around that time, I decided that I weren't going to do no more day jobs. Maybe around 2000.
You took the jump.
I took the jump. maybe 2010. Hadi, I got made redundant 4 times. I was like, this is ridiculous. I keep getting made redundant. You know what? Something's telling me enough of this. I'm just gonna take the plunge and no more day jobs. That wasn't the last day job I ever done, by the way. I had to go back. but that was en route to where I am now, where I haven't had a real job in many years.
It's interesting you say that, because there's a couple of things that come out from screaming coming out from it, which is one, the laws of attraction. One of the biggest rules of laws of attraction is short and simple. If you want it that badly, you'll either make it happen, or an event will take place that will force it to happen, because that's what's gonna. You want it that badly, and that's the laws of attraction. In terms of also attracting, you attract all the people in your life that will help you along your journey to make things take place. Michael Che at that time sounded like exactly that guy. He was able to do the business part, go out there, negotiate while he'd done the creative part and put things together, and still develop as well. And you're constantly learning. You never stop learning, and you've shown that in terms of the screenwriting, that you move from basic writing to screenwriting, and now it's a different technique that you're learning there. So you've done so much. And again, yes, eventually things do fizzle out, but I'm surprised Michael Che did not look to stay either in an incorporated business sense, like a shareholder or a non-executive director or silent partner within the production. But clearly, you started from there at that point where you took the jump. Movie making career and filming career, in that sense, within Mellow 9 Productions, started to take off, because I've seen, again, on YouTube, some of the things that you've put out there, which is of really good quality. What were the sort of challenges that you personally went through? Was it a mental thing, like the doubts, or was it a matter of, I'm not totally aware of what the skills I need are here, but I'll still do this? Or was it a matter of making the connections?
It was a bit of everything, because you're right, Hadi, there were so many challenges and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know. And, you know, with Michael, remember Michael had an epiphany one night, and at age 30 or whatever, he decided that, well, he had an idea for me to write. And I said to him, you should do this with me. Now, before that, I'd never saw any inclination. He did media studies with me at college, but I never saw in him that desire to want to create in that way, artistically. And so, you know, the thing with Michael, it was never his dream. Remember, I was born with this. So he came, played his role and left. And maybe I didn't know how to ask to stay on board. I didn't know. I was so wet behind the ears. What happened at that point was that a lot of people were jumping on what we were doing and what I was doing creatively. And me, my current business partner, Lexi Noons, who is with me to this day and was with me from those days with Michael, we were all creating stuff. And then people saw that it was taking its toll, and it took its toll on Michael. And because people saw that there was elements that were taking advantage and trying to divide and conquer us, and that happens quite a bit in this industry. And so there were challenges of that and trying to keep everything together. And while I was trying to keep everything together, I was in the middle of a relationship breakdown and having to move home, get out the home where I had with my two. They were little at the time, they're big now. My boys, they're next door, the big ones. But so I'm in the middle of a relationship breakdown, which was at the time Victim came out, the movie that I co-wrote. While that was happening and my name was going up the screen, the credits that I spoke about earlier, that I really wanted my mum to acknowledge because one day I might be there, I got that dream and my name was going up the screens in cinema screens. And while my name's going up the screen, I'm moving out of the house and my relationship's died and I've got no money and people's trying to divide and conquer us. There was just a lot of, but within that, what kept me going was just being creative. Just keep on being creative, filming stuff. I was shooting stuff, but I didn't know how to ask for money to shoot stuff. I'd done a lot of stuff for free, man. Hadi, if you saw how much stuff I'd done for free, and people would take advantage of that, because you needed the content, you know what I mean? Because my cousin, who worked with me at the time, Creative Vessel, my cousin Andre, very smart cousin, younger cousin, very smart. And he said to me, how can you be a production company if you've got no productions? He said, you got to create something. So we created stuff for free. We created something called 9 Scoops, which was amazing. 9 Scoops. It was called Nine Scoops of Ice Cream, but it was just Nine Scoops, abbreviated to Nine Scoops. And we interviewed everyone, David Harewood, Jumping Jack Frost, the Ragga Twins, Letitia Wright, and my friend Cassie, rest in peace, Anne Aiken, music people. We done 30 productions on no money, zero money. But we just had people just to come in and we just did it. We had a desire to do it and we just did it. And that opened up my network books. It opened me up to people. It kept me creative, because I think the key to being creative is to be creative and just keep creating. When you've got no certainties, no promises, just do it. And yeah, in the midst of that, people were taking advantage of us and advantage of me, and it happened. And, you know, even people that you couldn't take advantage of me on the road, not on the streets of South London, not on the grimy streets of South London, but in that creative world, people took advantage of me. And I don't blame them. I look in the mirror, you know, but it was a real crazy time. And I had to navigate that, or I would have sunk. 100% I would have sunk. I had to navigate it, because it didn't become about the creativity no more. It became about the politics. And within the politics, I was trying to find my creative anchor. And it was hard to do when you're
Hey everyone, I got this massage gun from TikTok shop. I'm doing a quick review on it. So you have the gun itself, 4 different heads, and they're all worth it. Easy to fit on heads, easy to turn on, and different settings. So whatever kind of job you do, warehouse, driving, if you're coming back from the gym, hard day at work, this is ideal. And easy interchangeable. Even massaging, different muscle groups, different settings. And if you put more pressure on it, it will put more pressure on the muscle too. And this is really good value for money. I got it from the TikTok shop and you won't regret it. Costs less than £20. Compared to Amazon, over 50. So get yours on a TikTok shop today.
just in a place where there's no certainties. And I suppose to be a creative is to live with no certainties anyway, Hadi,
Yeah.
because nothing's certain. And this is why I say it's about the journey. It's not about the destination, because, you know, people might have seen the positive, but I was struggling and I knew I wouldn't sink. But my thing has always been to jump off the edge of the cliff, not literally, but there's a literal element to it. You jump off the edge of the cliff and you either fall and smash to a million pieces, or you soar like an eagle.
Yeah,
And I jumped off the
I
edge of that
understand that
cliff.
completely. And not just understand that, but you're right. You sometimes burn your bridges, so there's no way back. So the only way you can go is progress forward, no matter what the outcome is. And sometimes you have to have that belief, not only just in yourself, but in higher powers, whichever faith you're part of. You know, even if you don't have a faith, you know, laws of attraction, look at Jim Carrey.
Something, yeah.
Best example of that. He didn't believe in any of that kind of thing. And it's tricky. I get that. And your resolve has been absolutely impenetrable, to the point where you're right. You know you've been taken advantage of in some ways, but in terms of a feeling, it didn't feel right. But you knew that the better thing was to go ahead and do this. This is a better outcome. And I've been there. You know, I've done that in the professional wrestling industry. Yeah, I've done that when I had a small production company myself, Ring Sport Productions. And I tried to get the creators, but I had challenges with that. And one of the biggest challenges was when it came to not payment, funny enough, it came to conflicting personalities. One person thinking that they know better than the other person. You know, rather than working as a team, they wanted to go above as an individual. And that in itself became quite tricky to manage. When you're dealing with clients, you know how to deal with clients. But when you're dealing with a team like that, it becomes quite frustrating. And so clearly, part of the challenges that you went through would have been with some of the creatives who are either, you know, doing the camera work, doing the editing, doing the sound. Some will have conflicting ideas in terms of techniques. And then you have to make that final call, either in the capacity of directing or capacity of production. You know, this is my company, you do. How did you handle those kinds of personalities?
Well, my training came from the road, because on road you handle personalities all the time. Maybe in not that capacity, but with a million different personalities. What happened to me, one of my best trainings, that someone that became part of my team, Hadi, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, like brilliant. But that's he's technically he was brilliant. He was an editor. He knew how to shoot. I liked him a lot. But I quickly noticed that this person had ulterior motives, and I quickly noticed this. But even though we noticed, we still hanged on to him for a year to work it out. But he tried to destroy us. He tried to take the company. His family tried to take the company. It was horrible, and I don't know why he would do that, because I was thinking, we ain't that humbly. I mean, at the time, I'm like, why would you try to take this company? What's so good about it that you'd want to take it? So what is he seeing that I'm not seeing? So I was like, okay, that's homage that he's trying to take, because people only take what's good. They're not going to take something that's not good. That was hard, because he was causing division and trying to split us up. And so I think this person, though, was a blessing, because his personality gave me the training to deal with so many other personalities. And this is why from every negative experience comes positive, if you see it, if you open your eyes and if you're still. And what he did was open me up to that. And so what I do, because I work with a team that I select, well, you get it wrong sometimes, but because people always, in this industry, a lot of the time, you're asking people for favors as well. This reels off it, and you can only ask for so many favors before people quite rightly will say no. Or, you got to do for you and I'll do for you. Do for me, I'll do for you. You can't keep asking people to turn up and not pay them, or because after a while they're going to get a job that pays, or they're going to think you're taking the piss, and they just won't answer their phone. And I'd be the same. So, there's a lot of people in this industry that came out for me, and they were really good characters, beautiful characters, man, so many. And they're the ones that we should always remember. The ones that gave me a challenge, you got to think, well, what are their motives, and what time do I have to deal with their issues? Because ultimately, I just want to create a project. I don't know anything. I know a little about a lot, but there's people that know a lot more than me, and I want to work with those people. But we have to be aligned, and even especially writing and creating stories, because I'm as the great Robert McKee would say, I'm the first author. So when I get a script to write, I get a blank piece of paper, pretend it's blank, yeah? It's a blank paper, and then I have to do the rest. And then you have to work with people that are interpreting story and giving you their ideas. And the reason why I always say to them is, the script wins, Adrian doesn't win. It's not about me. It's not about I want it to be like this, so it needs to be like that. No, I never want it to be like that, so it needs to be like that. What does the script demand? And if everybody's on the same page and recognizes we're here to serve the project, not to serve each other, then we'll always win. And that's how I deal with those personalities. I keep a tight ship in it. And people we work with I won't have anyone bullying anyone on my set or making someone feel small. I started off as a runner, man. I know what it's like to be that person that has to make the tea and
Yeah.
be at the so-called bottom of the ladder. So I'll never have anyone disrespecting on my set. When you come on my set, then I don't care what your background is, your age is, your height is, your race is, your religion is, your sexual orientation is. If you come on my set, you get treated with respect and love. You're here to do a job.
Yeah.
And we're here to be
team.
professional, not to make yourself feel better at the expense of someone else. Then you got issues that are bigger than being on a film set or anything that's creative. You got life things that you need to sort out, because I always believe in treating people with respect. Unless they disrespect you, that's different. I don't take any disrespect, so I understand that. But don't belittle people or let other people make other people feel down so you can feel up. I won't have that either. I won't have it on my set. So I've learned how to keep those people away, and I've learned not to work with them or navigate around them, because sometimes you still have to work with them, but I'm quite a strong force anyway. So, if you're either threatened by me or you embrace me, I don't mind, but I will never be that person that is difficult. And if I am being difficult, because there's a reason, like, well, hang on, I think I should be paid this amount. Why are you suggesting you pay me this, or things? It's about your worth.
But it's funny.
And I know my worth now.
Yeah, It's good that you know that too, because a lot of people don't know their worth, and sometimes
Took a while.
they'll price themselves out, or they'll do it absolutely for free, which eventually they'll get to that middle ground. And sometimes it's market that dictates it, or it is you yourself that will dictate it. It's tricky in this day and age, and that leads to the other thing, which is now the industry itself has changed. The traditional modes and traditional methods of viewing products. So it used to be TV. We grew up on TV, we grew up on cinema, then VHS on video, that kind of thing. Became DVD, and now you've got the streaming service which is out there. So the content is now going out on streaming services and social media platforms. YouTube is a great example of that. But there's other platforms that are out there doing the same thing as YouTube, Rumble, Patreon, so on and so forth. And as a content creator, yes, you can get your content out to more places, but in terms of the monetization and, people paid, stuff like that, what are the sort of challenges that you're facing now would be the best way of putting it? Because it's not where it was even 2 years ago. It's moved on so rapidly. So how are you as an independent production company dealing with these kind of things?
The true answer is I don't know how well I am dealing with it. I'm kind of like a bit like blasé to everything. I'm aware of it, but I don't have the capacity to keep up. I only joined TikTok maybe this year, and just because I had to for a project, because I was like, I've had enough. How much things can I be on TikTok? But then I got to think it's not me, it's the business, and so I've got to kind of separate myself from the business. But in terms of navigating it, I'm not sure we do. And we're not smashing the space. And that's the truth, because if you Googled what we're doing, you can see we're not smashing the space in terms of numbers. We don't have the biggest following. I don't even know how to do that. We're all organic. I'm never paid for a follower.
Yeah, that's all you need. It's organic.
Like
it just has to be organic.
yeah,
yes,
I'm
paid
completely
ads.
organic, but
Paid ads
it's a
can
slow
help.
process.
Yeah, I mean, paid ads can
Yeah.
help, but paid
And it
ads doesn't necessarily retain the same way the organic strategies retain. And that's what you want. You want
Yeah.
that audience, that following that will come back to you time and time again. I learned that the hard
Yeah.
way. Don't get me wrong. I done paid ads for the tycoon character that I've done as a professional wrestler. And the funny thing is, when I first approached you, this was many years ago. It was to introduce a professional wrestling company in South London, BCW.
I remember.
Yeah, and it was I wanted them to do the work, but I just wanted to do the introduction, take it from there. And it was quite interesting that particular journey, because things were changing constantly. And what I knew was short and simple. You put the content out there, people will find it. It's now become a science. You put the content out there, but you got to do a lot more afterwards. And I'm learning more. Yes, content is king, but it can be swept up in the sea of content. So much content's put out on it per second. So how do you get your content noticed? And it's now become a matter of finding the audience. How do you find the audience? There's all kinds of work that needs to be done behind the scenes. And I think that is a major challenge for anyone. But also we're looking at things like AI. The traditional companies, right now, recently on CapCut and some of the other free-to-use AI, like InVideo AI or Leonardo AI, write your script down and we will transform it into a movie for you. This is the way it's going at the moment. So the industry, the creative industry, again, having met people like the Musicians Union out there, Equity, they are looking at this. AI is far-reaching in more ways than one. Even in the USA was SAG, S-A-G, the Screen Actors Guild, as well as the Writers Guild, going out on strike because of the potential that studios could use an actor's face in perpetuity, even after they pass away, and not pay them, just pay them once a lifetime fee, which could be dirt cheap. And that was, almost like a deep fake. Kind of thing. You must have had this kind of conversation with someone about it, like what is going to happen now.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm part of Screen Writers Guild Great Britain. And so they're always updating with AI and the challenges and what's happening. And, someone said to me the other day, one day you might be out of a job because of AI. Maybe.
I doubt that.
But
the only reason
I doubt it too. But what? Yeah, go on.
The only reason I say that
why do you doubt it?
You said in the beginning, people buy from people. And what I'm seeing right now, it's not even because of how fast moving it is. The best example will be the Yeti and Bigfoot. You may not have seen these, but these are little shorts, movie shorts. And we're seeing all of this sort of stuff on AI at the moment. Yes, it is a time saver, getting things out there. I've done it myself. I've used AI to generate, using the script of the history of the trade union movement in the UK, converting it into short movies. And yes, it will get rid of a lot of the junior level work, but it will give more freedom for people to develop from junior to master very quickly, because it's just the change of industry. We've had it all the time. We see it with camera equipment. We've seen it with sound equipment. We've seen it with all kinds of things. What used to be a 50-pound weight of a camera equipment, now you got a gimbal that stabilizes things and is virtually like a pound in terms of weight. Camera qualities from P, now you got 2K, 4K shooting capacity, and the upskilling and upgrading on that on servers. So I think people will always want to see humans on there, and you can virtually spot AI when it's AI generated content.
Yeah.
If you're older, like a retired person who's got a bad eyesight, it may not be as easy, but
Maybe not.
something is always a little off compared to human actors. And that's why I think yes, I think the it's going to change, but I think to capitalize on it it's finding your feet right now would be the best way. It's gone from one extreme to another extreme. And that's what I meant with the Bigfoot and Yeti. It's great little shorts, great animation, great content in terms of comedy. But after a while, it becomes the same.
Yeah.
After a while, it's like, okay, yeah, let's move on to another one. That's why TV shows don't last all the time. They'll go through seasons and stop. The only things that go on forever and a day seems to be Coronation Street and EastEnders. But even those are dying out, because you saw that with Emmerdale Farm, and other soap operas that had their point dead. It's gone now because it doesn't adapt. Brookside on Channel 4 when it first came out.
I remember Brookside. Yeah.
Died out. Family Ties on Channel 5 died out. So eventually things do have their time in the sunlight, and when the night comes, they have to go. They have to move on. And I think with how we're consuming content now is completely different. I don't watch TV. If I watch TV, it's me streaming something on TV. I'm not sitting down watching a terrestrial channel anymore.
Me too.
As the content I want to watch. YouTube, Patreon, all these things they have the content on there that I am interested in. You talked about comic books. So guys that I follow used to be, well, still are, Comic Storian, who passed away last year, R.I.P. Benny, and Comics Explained, which I absolutely love because it got me back into the Marvel comics and, Spawn and all the rest of that again, which I grew up on in the 90s, 80s and the 90s. And I think even getting your content out has changed. It's no longer the TV studios or independent, TV channels, which used to be the case. We had in the UK 3 channels to begin with. So BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, then it became Channel 4, Channel 5. Then you had the Sky TV come in, and then you had more free-to-view content on there. Then suddenly that all changed when, it started raining a bit, and then the satellite signal started to go kaput. It all went Wi-Fi. Now you're seeing it on internet. You're seeing it on a laptop screen. You're seeing it on a mobile phone. You can go on any public transport. People have got their earphones on and they're watching something. So I think how we're consuming content now and the content that's being created, it is now more individual. It's found this audience. A great example of that is the MCU, Disney. How much did Disney do? You even look at Disney's Lucasfilm production company, who you like Kathleen Kennedy or not. Some shows have been hits and some shows have been misses. But the thing is, it's been content that some people have wanted to see. They wanted to see The Mandalorian. They wanted to see, the background to how the Empire came to be in the Clone Wars and that kind of stuff. I know I'm going off on a rant here.
No, but this is all important, and it's so true. I'm not happy with Kathleen Kennedy. I'm one of those people. But in the MCU universe, I thought of that many years ago, and I think they've done it now, and they're not as good as they used to.
Well,
I don't think
we know why that is.
And
and I'll say this. I know it's going to sound controversial, but I'm not the only one to say it. Jamie.
Hey everyone, you might be lucky to get safety boots from your employer. And these are absolutely fine to have, but guess what? They don't necessarily have the right supports and can leave you feeling aches and pains, especially in your arches at the end of the day, leading to fallen arches. So make sure you get some arch supports. These are useful. They slip into your boot and give the same comfort as trainers, enabling you to walk around all day long, doing all the heavy lifting, no matter what the job is that you're doing, and you won't feel any pain at the end of the day. They will leave you feeling really good at the end of the day, so make sure you order yours at the TikTok shop for the price of less than a packet of chips.
John said it too. You've grown up on the image. It's like a book. You've read comics. You've read the story arc. You know the characters. You know what the characters are about. The storyboard is already there. All you need to do is put celluloid. It's easy to translate. But what you've had is people who don't understand coming into the writers' rooms, who didn't grow up on it, try to put their spin on it. You know, whether you say it's restricted because of production costs, well, no, the MCU's proven that Iron Man can fly. You've shown that.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
it's quite easy to generate those stories and those characters. But like I said, you've had people in there that decide, no, we don't want Silver Surfer to be Norman Rand. We want it to be Charlotte Ball. And we want it to be...
exactly.
And she only existed in a What If comic, which is...
Exactly.
That's great. I get it. The Charlotte Ball character is actually his wife.
It's actually a real character.
It's his wife.
It's his wife.
He's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
But a person who's grown up on that wants to see that. And the other stories which are out there, they want to see those stories. When you start messing with the stories that people have grown up with, then you switch off that audience. That's way their life to see it come to screen. That's all.
That's what happened to me with Star Wars, and the new ones. And I dreamt about these stories, literally dreamt about these stories, and then I was so disappointed with what they done, and it became more about wokeism than telling great stories. And I think once you start doing that, and it's more about wokeism than the art, then I think you've lost the art, and it becomes political. I just don't think it's necessary, because not if it's going to be at the expense of great storytelling anyway. You know what I mean? There's definitely something in that. And I definitely agree with that.
I know I kind of went on a rant there, but I had to get my little rant out because
oh no, it's a good rant. It's a good rant. It's a good rant. It's a good rant.
But yeah, I mean, you say it yourself. With AI, the Screen Actor Guild has actually given you information.
Yeah, they update us a lot. They update us a lot. They do.
What are they saying?
They update us a lot.
They're
saying, well, there's lots of cases going to court. I find it quite boring and tedious. My brain I have to force myself to read through these things. But like you said, I don't overthink it, because ultimately I'm me, innit? And if these things... I'm not one of these people that really get wound up about things that are not in my control. It's good to be educated on it, I agree, so that you understand what's going on, because we understand knowledge is power, but it takes a lot for my brain to keep up with the current AI trends. So I don't force myself. I'm aware of it. I know about it. Everyone keeps talking about ChatGPT. I get it. I get it. I respect it. And there's a place. I think I'm going to direct a short film, and my final scene, I'm going to use AI. I'm going to use it as a friend, as a tool, and incorporate it into my storytelling for this one scene. So there's a place, and like anything, I think we should use it as a tool to enhance, but not to take over, So
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not in control of what AI does. It's going to do what it does. I'm only in control of me, human me, and what I do, and keep on improving and keep on doing what I do. And I think I'll be all right. Or not. It's okay.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned ChatGPT, because every platform has now got their AI brand. Meta, Facebook.
Yeah.
Google has Gemini. The Chinese have DeepSeek AI. Adobe has their own AI. And what I've done with AI, I've used it, all of them. And what I've done is write out something and just ask them to look at it from a third person perspective. It saves me the time to go out to another person who may come back to me a little bit later and say, well, yeah, you got to change this, got to change that. It's actually helped to analyze everything, but it's still coming from me.
Sure.
Can I restructure it a little bit better? Can I make it tighter? Do I need to change the spelling here? That kind of thing. Because, even back in the day when we started doing typing on Microsoft Word and stuff like that, there would be spell checkers.
Absolutely.
Okay, they were
That's
American
AI.
based. They were American based,
It's American based, yeah.
but it's there. Color is spelled COLOR rather than COLOUR, as in the UK. So, and again, having spoken to Equity, BEC2, which is part of the Prospect Trade Union, and what they've felt with AI, and because they deal with the theatre groups, they'll deal with the actors, the freelancers, that kind of thing, the creative elements, and try to make sure that they're protected. It's quite fascinating. It is really fascinating at this moment in time how they are, like what you said, going through court. They're taking companies to court right now. And I'm just waiting for the tribunals when they come out and have a read of
Sure.
what's going to be going on there. But, from your sort of perspective, it's good. I think that gives hope to a lot of people that there's still going to be jobs out there. It will just change a little bit. But it's not going to
Yeah.
take it away.
No. And even if it does, what can you do, man? I think you have to be adaptable because, if these things are happening anyway, you can't beat yourself up about it because it's beyond us. AI is huge. It's going to change the world. It really is. So we need to embrace it in a way that works for us, or just go and live off grid and pack it all in.
Well, there's that's why regulation is so key, to give a bit of a guidance and
Absolutely.
structure to help. But the problem with regulators is short and simple. They start off with the best of intentions, then power
And
corrupts.
then it turns. Yeah.
And then
Absolute power corrupt.
and then you have, because we're seeing in things like the financial services industry, we're seeing it in some of the other industries out there, the word compliance became that be all and end all word where it was supposed to protect people. It didn't. They then started going in to protect the business to the detriment of saying that we're starting off by judging everyone as the bad guys to begin with.
Sure.
And that's not right. Because
No.
you're not coming into this to be bad guys. We're coming in to make money. We're coming in to leave a credible thing behind, which leads to the next point, because you're one of the very few people from, whether it's a West Indian background, an Afro-Caribbean background, or whatever label you want to put on there, or African background, whatever label, because people will see you as black, they'll see me as derogatory terminology starting with a P, but that's what they'll see.
I'm not.
Hey, I know that. But that is the skin color is a big thing, and I hate to say it that way.
Definitely.
But it's
It is.
also a great thing as well, because you've trailblazed your own path and you've given to others. You've scaled up in more ways than one, and you've learned and developed. So in your sort of way forward, what do you say to anyone who's aspiring, who's coming from your similar kind of background? They're not coming from wealth. They've just got that grit and determination. What's the key thing that you would give to them?
The key thing I would say is know what you want and go for it. It's hard to go for something where you don't know what you're going for. That can lead to a lot of insecurities and frustrations that lead to depressions and all kinds of other downers. But if you know what you want, I'd say to anyone from any background, whether you're black or white or age, just go for it and don't let anything stop you. Because most times people think that obstacles stop them from getting where they want. But I truly believe that most of the times when people don't get what they want, it's because they block themselves and it's something they put in their own path. I don't believe anyone has the power to block you. Yeah, they can block you from that meeting or that, but they can't block you from life. No one can block you from your greatness. No one can block you from your destiny except yourself. And we put blockers on ourselves every day and then wonder why we don't get to where we're going. You need to have patience and you need to have a love for it as well. So that would be my main thing, is to go for it and not to let anything get in your way. It doesn't mean you have to step on people either, but if you do things in the right spirit, in the right frame of mind, with the right manifestations, then I believe there's nothing you can't do. I always say to a lot of young people, get in touch with me. You can come on any set I'm on.
And I will
they
leave the
never
link.
get in touch.
I will leave the link to Mellow Productions. Just a general way of getting in contact with you guys, rather than
Yeah, it's just you can go through Instagram now, innit? We don't have a website anymore, but yeah, just go through Instagram now. It's all good.
Instagram.
But I always tell young people, yeah, Instagram, mostly Instagram. But I always tell young people, get in touch with me because I will never say no. I was that young person and I will always help you if I can. Always. I mean that. I don't care how successful I become or successful I am. I always help people because we all need help. I need help. I've had help, and we have to help each other, especially in the climate we're in. I love the idea of everyone helping and being one and for one common cause. And maybe that's idealistic, but I love the idea of it anyway. And so I always like people to. I always encourage people to get in contact and reach out. But what you find, Hadi, is most people don't. They block themselves.
Some
They
people don't
probably
know
think,
how
"Oh,
to
I'll
either.
never respond," or they don't. Well, that's another thing. Learn how to, because in this day and age, it's not hard. It's not hard, man. You got email, you got messages. You can do it with your eyes shut if you want, and press send. Send. You'll never talk. You'll never talk to me.
That's
You got to
exactly
take
what
that
happened with me
risk.
when I reached out to you. I closed my eyes and hit that send button. And I thought, well, because I'm thankful of who I am. And you mentioned this earlier, whether we, because we judge ourselves by different standards. In terms of, are we really successful? One of the ways how I look at it, if I was that successful, I'd be doing this, wouldn't I? Or people would be coming after me. No, it doesn't work that way, because mindset is different as well. Yes, we will attain certain levels, but we are always looking up. We're not looking down and looking back. We're looking forward all the time. I know people when they I've said this a couple of times to a couple of people. They look at me and say, "Hey, you're bald. You got these big bald pot," that kind of thing. Yes, I do. I agree. But while they're focusing on what's on the back of my head, they're not seeing what I'm focused on the head in terms of my goals, where I'm reaching. They're focusing on the wrong thing. They're not looking at where I'm going until I've got there. And I think that's the case with a lot of people, is that have your backup plans, be safe, be secure. You say it yourself, you had day jobs because you knew that that's the realism. You've got to be grounded so you can make your dreams come true. Dreams don't happen like that, you have to put in the work. And again, I'm very fortunate to be in the position that I've been in, where I've won something and able to give back and showcase to many people out there it's attainable. And on that note, I need to go to the last part, which is I like finishing on a positive, and or a positive take is. And I call this part my better tomorrow. What is a better tomorrow for Asian? Well, either from the industry sort of way, personal life, even from a
One of
community.
my favorite songs is called "A Better Tomorrow" on Wu-Tang's double CD. So it's very apt that you've asked me and said that phrase, "Better Tomorrow." It's a really good track. Wu-Tang. I'm a big Wu-Tang fan.
Sweet. Sorry.
Come on, shoo. So, for me, a better tomorrow is a continuation of today. And I don't separate the two, because without today, there is no tomorrow. And without tomorrow, there's no day after that. So in terms of that, and it may seem like what kind of answer is that? But it's like when I paint pictures, my pictures are related to the past, but they're in the now, they're in the present, but they come from the past and they're going towards the future. So everything I do right now is in hope of a better tomorrow. And what that looks like is a continuation of what I'm doing today.
I get that.
And the things I'm doing today are really inspiring. And if I keep being inspired or inspiring and aspiring with the right frequency, then that better tomorrow will look like today. But my mindset will be different, and I'll view it as a better today, which will become a better tomorrow. It's about the mindset. So you could have the best tomorrow, but if your mindset isn't right, then you won't even notice that it's a good tomorrow. And it might be a better tomorrow for me, but a terrible present for everybody else. I don't want my better tomorrow to be everyone's worst day, So everything I'm doing today is in the vein of a better tomorrow. And so for me, it's to continue what I'm doing. I'm doing some great projects. I'm in a creative vein of my life. I have challenges. There's challenges, man. There's life challenges. There's home challenges. There's children challenges. Challenges of 360. But we're born into a system that's designed to give us those challenges and to throw us off. But if we can navigate it and be aware of it, and then I can give myself the best chance to continue in spite of those challenges, to continue and to get to that utopia. But I believe it's a mindset. So I think in order to have a better tomorrow for everyone, have a better today, and then you'll have a better tomorrow.
I get that.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And here's the funny thing. That's part of my philosophy that I had as well. And one of the plans, again, I'm a great believer in hero creation, because if I create the heroes of everything today, they'll become the leaders of tomorrow. And,
Exactly.
I've been very, very fortunate and thankful, again, to be in that position where I have been able to inspire people to become those heroes,
Brilliant.
in the very smallest ways, when it even comes down to representation against bullying, intimidation, harassment, fighting for workers' rights, and all those kinds of things that a trade union does. That's what a trade union does anyway. That's part and parcel of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to come out of your comfort zone. But the reason why you're doing it is also, like what you mentioned with children, is to make sure that they don't go through that kind of issues, because they're sorting out the issues today, so that tomorrow they don't have those issues to face.
Exactly.
And honest to God, Adrian, this has been an absolutely amazing experience. You, sir,
It's flown.
are unmatched. And you've been on
Bless
the
you,
Unmatched
brother.
podcast as well. I have to bring it to an end because, short and simple, Adrian is one of those. Listen, he actually put out, and I think I said this right at the beginning. If I didn't, I'm saying it now. He actually postponed a little bit of time with Harvey from the Soul Solid crew to actually do this with me today. I'm greatly honored for this. I know what that's like, because I'm still in negotiations with my cousin Seth from the Soul Solid crew, as well as and it's not that he's my cousin. It's not that he hates me. It's just a matter of just getting that timing in and trying to negotiate these kind of stuff. And for Adrian to actually push someone like Harvey back that little bit just to do this, come on, that's a great honor. And for me, this is the reason why he's unmatched. If you're out there, follow Mellow Productions on all the platforms out there. See the stuff that they're doing. Adrian Scott is absolutely amazing in his vision and bringing projects together, including some of the projects which are like Poetic 9. Sorry, I can't remember. Help me out there again.
Word nines. The
Word
word
nine.
nines we used to do. We done those, yeah.
Word 9, spoken word. He's had various different poets who come on, Blocking Voodoo, music video as well. So his YouTube channel
Oh, a
has
lot of music videos. A lot of music videos.
of content on there. If and if you've seen me interview some of the other people who I've talked to from the creative industries, get in contact. Do what you need to. As always, guys, whichever platform you're watching this on, give me a like, give me a follow, subscribe, enjoy what you're doing, give a comment, reach out, show the love. It supports all of us. And more importantly, but look up Adrian Scott. Give him the support, because right now he is that guy that we need today to make sure that our kids have a better future for tomorrow. Adrian, thank you for being a part of this podcast, guys. And on that note,
Thank you, brother.
we got to do this again. We have to do this again.
Yeah, that was lovely, Hadi. I appreciate you, bro. And I just want to say, I was always going to respond to you because you're a good person. You're always doing something positive, Hadi, always. And I've seen that for the last 15 years. Someone like you, I will always make time for. People say, oh, we ain't got time. We have got time. Speak to someone that hasn't got time, and then you realize you've got all the time in the world. It's just how we manage our time. So someone like you, Hadi, I will always have time for. It doesn't matter how successful one is, or, I always have time for you, my brother. So keep doing what you're doing, bro. I'll support you. You know what I mean? And it's all symbiotic, my brother.
Thank you. On that note, let's sign out. I'm going to let Adrian get back on with his day. And thank you guys as well. Take it easy. See you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Unmatched Podcast. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Your feedback helps us grow and bring you even more incredible stories. And remember, if you're unmatched in your field and have a unique story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me at hadi.naqvi@googlemail.com. Let's inspire others together.